And what Mercedes have done is to jump Charles Leclerc as well with those pit stops. I mean, they were ahead anyway, but they managed to come in, make the pit stop, stay ahead of the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. It's not worked into Leclerc's hands at all because he made his pit stop before that virtual safety car. What I don't quite understand with the AlphaTauri is why it stopped, then went into the pits, then came back out onto the track again, and then stopped. Because surely something was showing in the data for Yuki Tsunoda to have stopped or retired from the race in the pit lane.
Well, he thinks the tyre's loose, and obviously the engineers have gone to the mechanics. Was there a tyre loose? And they're all like, no, they've gone on properly. Maybe they just thought that it was something that he felt a new set of tyres, I don't know. But he's like, okay, well, I'll come back round to the pits and let's try it again. But no, they still have the same issue.
Virtual safety car is ending. What it has given us is quite a grandstand finish to this race, but not potentially the way that we thought it was going to go. Lewis Hamilton is about 16 seconds now behind Max Verstappen with 23 laps to go of this race on faster, fresher tyres. We are going green once again. If you've missed all the action so far, you want to watch the highlights, press your red button. If you're a Sky Q or a Sky Glass customer and you watch the highlights alongside the live action, you do not want to miss the live action here because it's Verstappen leading and Hamilton chasing with George Russell in third place for Mercedes, Charles Leclerc fourth and Sergio Perez fifth. We're watching Fernando Alonso leading Lance Stroll down the straight. Stroll back up into the points again, and behind these two comes Pierre Gasly a little further back.
Unusual choice. Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso, they both pitted under the virtual safety car, and they were both on hard tyres. And Alonso's gone for the soft tyre, but it's put him quite a few places behind Ocon, who was in front of. So he's sort of 9-10 seconds off of Ocon's pace when he was 5 seconds up the road.
There's your race leader, who thought he might have to be overtaking Lewis Hamilton to win this race. Hamilton is going to have to overtake Max Verstappen. The gap 12.6 seconds. The thing about virtual safety cars, it neutralises the race, but when the green light, and it's done randomly, is displayed and we can go racing again, depending where you are on the track, can have quite a bearing. Because if Jensen Button, you're about to come onto the straight when it's green, you're going to go a lot faster than if you've just done it on a virtual safety car speed.
Yeah, it's really tough when it halves the pit lane time. That's really tough for Lewis and for George. I don't know if there's something in the future we can do with virtual safety cars in a zone. Not so way out.
Stick bubble was good. This is going to be short stint, lighter field, so happy to push.
That was a bit snappy from Max Verstappen, wasn't it, on the power there?
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I didn't think it'd have to push that hard at this moment. It's 13 seconds up the road from Lewis, but 21 laps to go. Lewis on a softer tyre than Max. It's not over.
It's not over for Fernando Alonso either. He just set a new fastest lap of the race. Verstappen has then taken that fastest lap off him. But Alonso is catching Lando Norris. 12.6 seconds was the gap at the end of the last lap between Verstappen and Hamilton. 12.8 seconds now is the gap between Verstappen and Hamilton. George Russell, 2.7 seconds behind Hamilton, has now just set the new fastest lap of the race. Then comes Leclerc, then comes Perez. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, so quite right that the FIA are going to investigate this. If Yuki's wise enough to know if he feels that a wheel is loose, so quite right the FIA are going to investigate this. We might be here till late, Crofty, we'll see how that goes. But I think for that, Lewis's frustration is obvious. Before, had that not happened, Verstappen was going to have to overtake Lewis on a track that's very difficult to overtake. Now, Lewis is going to overtake Verstappen on a track that's very difficult to overtake.
It has had a dramatic effect on the outcome of this race. A car was sent out, the driver thought that a wheel was loose, he was then told to carry on, he returned to the pits, the tyres were changed, he was sent out again, and then 4 corners later he stopped. And it's given us a completely different complexion in this race. Meanwhile, Sebastian Vettel, who you remember made a pit stop earlier, came out ahead of Hamilton and Perez, who were having their scrap. He's just been given a 5-second time penalty for ignoring blue flags, and that one doesn't surprise me either.
Yeah, it's hurt the emotion and the adrenaline of this race a little bit. It's gone, hasn't it? With we thought Max was going to have to try and fight past both Mercedes, but now it's the other way around, and they're all on new tyres. So A lot more difficult for Lewis to chase down Max.
Still a long way to go here, though.
Yeah, I mean, what's great is this pack sort of from 6th back to 9th. There's going to be a lot of action there with Fernando fighting his way through.
Yeah, this means quite a lot as well in the battle for 4th in the championship. Coming into this race, there was a 20-point gap in that battle for 4th. Fernando Alonso would like to help extend that advantage and get past Lando Norris, but nothing doing on that occasion, but he's going to hang it out as much as he can. And Norris gave him width, and Fernando eventually had to back off before he hit the gravel.
Yeah, Fernando pushed that all the way until the end, and it looked like he did that for a reason. I don't know if he's trying to say, well, he didn't give me room on the exit. He's very clever in that situation, isn't he, Fernando?
So still, George Russell is setting very fast sector times. Still out in front is Max Verstappen, and the man in the middle of that is Lewis Hamilton, who's going faster on this lap than Max Verstappen. And what do we reckon to this for car control? And, well, Alonso, he'll stay in a dangerous place for only so long before the danger is going to bite him. And that's why he backs out. That could have been so much worse for him. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with Charles. He's finally got a good lap, but he was sort of three and a half seconds off the pace. Now he's put in a 15.1, so a little bit better, but still 1.2 seconds slower than the Mercedes, who are half a second up on Max.
On that last lap, Esteban Ocon has only stopped once in this race. They decided at Alpine that was the best way to try and bring him into play. There is Esteban Ocon, he's about to get swallowed up, eaten alive, overtaken probably eventually by Sainz and Norris and Alonso coming very fast behind him.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Hopefully it's not just going to be a DRS train. They're all on relatively new tyres, apart from Ocon in front. So Sainz is in the quickest car of those three, but whether he can do anything with it, we'll have to wait and see.
So that gap coming down all the while out in front. Verstappen's on the hard tyre, Hamilton's on the medium tyre. It's 11.3 seconds currently. Hamilton is consistently setting better sector times. Ahead of Verstappen, Nicholas Latifi a couple of corners ahead, as Hamilton now sets a new fastest lap of the race. Hamilton has got Gasly in between himself and Verstappen in terms of back markers that could influence things. Ted, down to you.
So those who didn't stop under the virtual safety car and those who did are a great game. It's a great game of the tortoise and the hare now. And Esteban Ocon is going to have to be the widest tortoise you've ever seen, Crofty, because he stayed out. His tyres are 35 laps old, and he's got Sainz behind him on 10 years.
Oh, we've got another car stopping, and it's Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, and I think this is down the main straight where Valtteri Bottas has stopped. It's right before the first corner. This could be another safety car. Yellow flags are now waving. Sainz, wow, made the move on Esteban Ocon, but I'm not sure he got ahead before he got to the incident. Really should have backed off, but stayed ahead of Esteban Ocon.
He overtook under the yellows. I mean, he was alongside going past the car, and then even if he wasn't there, he still went past, and he still would have been in the yellow zone. Green flag would have been just around the corner, so...
But you just wonder, is this another safety car?
It's not electrified, but I don't know.
Yeah, checking.
How does he let him by straight away without getting overtaken by Lando Norris?
It's not even that. I mean, you have to say it didn't look good passing a car when there's one stopped on the inside of the circuit. So I'm not sure they would just let him give the place back. But you would say that this is a safety car, not a virtual.
Yeah.
The car
We need to let him by, let Ocon by, slam down right here. Come on.
Well, at least the only overtaking place is gone now. So
Yeah, well, that for the moment, Bottas is still down there. Ocon's ahead of Norris, ahead of Alonso. Sainz is ahead of all three of them. And if he slows down Carlos Sainz to let Esteban Ocon go past...
Why is he stopping? What's he doing?
They're all slowing down because it's double waved yellows down there.
But that was
safety car, that's why they're slowing down, Jensen.
Yeah, you saw that.
They did slam the brakes on a little bit. Right, so behind the safety car, they can sort that out a bit easier. Verstappen's been told to get into the pits. Soft tyres going on Max Verstappen's Red Bull. Will Mercedes decide to pit Lewis Hamilton as well? Or do they stay out with Lewis Hamilton? Ted, are you calling the strategy for us here, Ted?
I was just talking to myself. He's got to stay out. He's got to stay out. Hamilton's got to stay out.
Hamilton's going to take the lead here.
What are you doing? This is weird.
Hamilton is going to take the lead of this race after Red Bull pitted Max Verstappen. And George Russell might just get ahead of Max Verstappen here too. So Mercedes are back 1-2 in the lead. Did Red Bull think that they were going to get caught by Mercedes anyway? So what they needed was tyres that they could attack Mercedes with, and the hard tyre might not be that one. Charles Leclerc pits too.
Yeah, I'm a little bit gobsmacked, but it's a safety car, so they're all going to be bunched up. I guess they were just worried by the pace deficit, which is sort of half a second, but the medium tyre is going to degrade, and that hard tyre would have been the one to the end of the race, but now he's in P3. A lot of work to do, and there's a lot of marbles offline. It's not easy to overtake.
But Mercedes, traditionally this season, struggle with warm-up a bit more than the Red Bull. Red Bull are going to be with Max Verstappen right behind the Mercedes pair when the safety car finally lets people go again. And Hamilton and Russell are going to have to try and hang on here for the last few laps of this race, which was initially, I think, what they were expecting, a virtual safety car and 15 laps ago.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, this has made it amazing for us all watching. Really exciting, but and you'd have to say Mercedes this year, they haven't had the quickest car most races, pretty much all the races, but their strategy and as a team, they've done such a good job.
So this is Valtteri Bottas. What happened to him?
Okay, Max, so I lost the engine.
Right, so that was Valtteri Bottas with a little bit of Giampiero Lambiase involved. This is Carlos Sainz. Where's the yellow flags? To be fair to him, he was already ahead, wasn't he, when they got to the yellow flag by about a front wing.
But then he's not, and then he is.
And he's not, and then he is.
So is that Ocon that's taken the plate? No, it's a tricky one, that.
So is that Ocon backing off that caused Carlos Sainz to get ahead? Safety car's going to come through the pit lane, unsurprisingly, because of where Valtteri Bottas is parked. And now there's going to be an awful lot of activity. George Russell is going to put soft tyres on as he comes into the pits. I promise you that is George Russell. Lewis Hamilton also made a pit stop.
I'm so confused. Why would you do that as Mercedes? Wouldn't you want a car between them? Karun? Yeah.
At race control, Karun Chandok.
Yes, no, George was straight on the radio saying, I would like the soft tyre. I'm losing tyre time. I think he was worried about that warm-up that you were rightly talking about. Oh, look at that! That could be an unsafe release.
Should be an unsafe release, I think. There, Karun, carry on.
Yeah, so I think that's your point earlier about Mercedes warm-up. I think concerned George, and he was on the radio saying, I need soft tyres. So I think that's what they called it for. That was so unfair. That was so unfair for the Ferrari because it was such a tight pit exit and there were people in the way. So he's been let go thinking the pit lane's free and clear, but he's taken so long to get out, and that's why he's held up the Alpine.
Is there anyone who didn't come into the pits? that was quite the stampede. So here's George Russell, and he wants to come into the pits, and he's saying to the Williams,
Let's stop.
Speed up.
Wait, I'm losing the tyre. Let me put the soft on. Stop. Box.
Right. So they all came through the pit lane because the safety car was leading them through the pit lane. You saw the clock on Lewis Hamilton. That is an unsafe release, Carlos Sainz, on Fernando Alonso. You saw the clock running on Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton did not change his tyres.
There was the McLaren guys in front and I couldn't turn.
He is leading this race from Verstappen. Hamilton is still on the medium tyre. George Russell is on the soft tyre ahead of behind Max Verstappen on the track, as he's decided that is very much the tyre that he wants for the rest of this race. They all came through the pits. But the crucial thing here to bear in mind for the rest of this race, when we restart, Hamilton's on mediums, Verstappen's on softs, fresher softs too, and Hamilton might struggle a little bit with warm-up, but then can George Russell try and put pressure on Verstappen?
It's not unsafe. The other car accelerated the braking and on the exiting. Clearly, I'm seeing it on the cameras. If they give me a penalty for that, is totally fake.
And this is Carlos Sainz, Ted Kravitz, trying to explain what happened with Esteban Ocon at the end of the straight, as Valtteri Bottas's Alfa Romeo was to the side.
Well, I think there's one person in this 100,000 crowd who agrees with Carlos Sainz. Because that was definitely unsafe. And not only is he going to get a penalty for overtaking under yellows, but now Ferrari going to get a fine for unsafe release. Is there any penalty Ferrari don't want to pick up today?
Not sure. I'm so surprised Mercedes let George make that call. Because now Lewis doesn't have anyone between him and Max on a soft set of tyres.
He doesn't, but what he does have is the rear gunner at the rear, as it were.
I'd definitely rather have a car in between me and Max Verstappen on soft tyres.
Yes, but then George Russell, is he thinking for himself that the best chance I've got of winning this race and winning a race for Mercedes, because I haven't done that yet, I'd rather like to, is to get on the soft tyres?
Oh, totally the right call for George, but I'm just surprised that Mercedes are okay with that call.
You know Mercedes, they let their drivers race.
But they might not win the race because of it.
They might not win the race even if they'd stayed what they were doing. They might have won the race 30 laps ago with the strategy the way it was going. They might not have won the race when Yuki Tsunoda stopped. They might have won the race when Valtteri Bottas stopped. This has swung back and forth quite dramatically in the last half an hour.
Do we have any straightforward races anymore? Nope, we don't. It's good, isn't it?
It's going to be hard to keep that car behind me, guys.
Yeah, copy Lewis, but yeah, let's give it everything. Lewis agrees with me.
Right, safety cars coming in at the end of this lap. Nico Rosberg, you got about 30 seconds to give us your viewpoint on this one.
No, unbelievable. I'm flat out rooting for Lewis here. I just hope he can keep Verstappen behind. That would be so damn awesome. But that medium tire is going to be so cold. It's going to be so hard. But if one person can do it, it's Lewis. And there's no DRS, remember, for the first 2 laps after safety car. So he might have enough time to warm those tires up again.
That is a very good point. Need to wait 2 laps, then the DRS becomes operational. Can George Russell get in the DRS range of Max Verstappen? So whilst Verstappen's looking to overtake, he might have to think about just defending a touch. Hamilton will keep them all at bay. When do you release here, Jensen, the start of a safety car resumption?
Oh, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, are we talking to the team and... Oh, look at the crowd. They're loving the action out there.
Watch live coverage of FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 from November 20th to December 18th live on A Sports and ARY's app. Live coverage of FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 on A Sports is powered by 1xBet Sporting Lines and Milo Energy Aage Badhne Ki. And brought to you in association with BJ Sports.
मुस्तकिल दर्द की वजह से आपका पूरा दिन खराब हो सकता है। ऐसे में मैं आपको नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड के इस्तेमाल का मशवरा देता हूँ। इसमें है खास बायलेयर टेक्नोलॉजी, जिसकी एक तह फौरी हल होकर दे जल्द आराम, जबकि दूसरी तह आहिस्ता आहिस्ता घुलकर 8 घंटों तक असर रखे बरकरार, ताकि आप रोजमर्रा के कामों को जारी रख सकें। इसलिए देर पर आराम के लिए नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड पर मेरा भरोसा।
तमाम दवाएं बच्चों की पहुंच से दूर रखें। खुराक लेवल पे दी गई हिदायत के मुताबिक इस्तेमाल करें। तबीयत ज्यादा खराब हो तो डॉक्टर से रुजू करें। हाई ब्लड प्रेशर और अंदाजे जिगर के मरीज डॉक्टर के मशवरे से इस्तेमाल करें।
सेंसिटिविटी स्पेशलिस्ट टूथपेस्ट इस्तेमाल करने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आपको कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना पड़े। मैं अपने पेशेंट्स को नया सेंसोडाइन कंप्लीट प्रोटेक्शन प्लस रेकमेंड करती हूँ। ये सिर्फ सेंसिटिव दांतों की हिफाजत ही नहीं करता, इसमें कई और बेनिफिट्स हैं, जैसे कि व्हाइटनिंग, कैविटी प्रोटेक्शन और सुपीरियर क्लीनिंग एक्शन। तो एक से ज्यादा टूथपेस्ट इस्तेमाल करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है। देयर इज नो कॉम्प्रोमाइज। जब मेरे पेशेंट्स को मिलता है कंप्लीट सोल्यूशन, दे आर हैप्पी, आई एम हैप्पी, इट्स परफेक्ट।
मुस्तकिल दर्द की वजह से आपका पूरा दिन खराब हो सकता है। ऐसे में मैं आपको नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड के इस्तेमाल का मशवरा देता हूँ। इसमें है खास बायलेयर टेक्नोलॉजी, जिसकी एक तय फौरी हल होकर दे जल्द आराम, जबकि दूसरी तय आहिस्ता आहिस्ता घुलकर 8 घंटों तक असर रखे बरकरार, ताकि आप रोजमर्रा के कामों को जारी रख सकें। इसलिए देर पर आराम के लिए नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड पर मेरा भरोसा।
तमाम दवाएं बच्चों की पहुंच से दूर रखें। खुराक लेवल पे दी गई हिदायत के मुताबिक इस्तेमाल करें। तबीयत ज्यादा खराब हो तो डॉक्टर से रुजू करें। हाई ब्लड प्रेशर और अमराज़ जिगर के मरीज डॉक्टर के मशवरे से इस्तेमाल करें।
मुस्तकिल दर्द की वजह से आपका पूरा दिन खराब हो सकता है। ऐसे में मैं आपको नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड के इस्तेमाल का मशवरा देता हूँ। इसमें है खास बायलेयर टेक्नोलॉजी, जिसकी एक तय फौरी हल होकर दे जल्द आराम, जबकि दूसरी तय आहिस्ता आहिस्ता घुलकर 8 घंटों तक असर रखे बरकरार, ताकि आप रोजमर्रा के कामों को जारी रख सकें। इसलिए देर पर आराम के लिए नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड पर मेरा भरोसा।
तमाम दवाएं बच्चों की पहुंच से दूर रखें। खुराक लेवल पे दी गई हिदायत के मुताबिक इस्तेमाल करें। तबीयत ज्यादा खराब हो तो डॉक्टर से रुजू करें। हाई ब्लड प्रेशर और अमराज़ जिगर के मरीज डॉक्टर के मशवरे से इस्तेमाल करें।
मुस्तकिल दर्द की वजह से आपका पूरा दिन खराब हो सकता है। ऐसे में मैं आपको नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड के इस्तेमाल का मशवरा देता हूँ। इसमें है खास बायलेयर टेक्नोलॉजी, जिसकी एक तय फौरी हल होकर दे जल्द आराम, जबकि दूसरी तय आहिस्ता आहिस्ता घुलकर 8 घंटों तक असर रखे बरकरार, ताकि आप रोजमर्रा के कामों को जारी रख सकें। इसलिए देर पर आराम के लिए नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड पर मेरा भरोसा।
तमाम दवाएं बच्चों की पहुंच से दूर रखें। खुराक लेवल पे दी गई हिदायत के मुताबिक इस्तेमाल करें। तबीयत ज्यादा खराब हो तो डॉक्टर से रुजू करें। हाई ब्लड प्रेशर और अमराज़ जिगर के मरीज डॉक्टर के मशवरे से इस्तेमाल करें।
सेंसिटिविटी स्पेशलिस्ट टूथपेस्ट इस्तेमाल करने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आपको कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना पड़े। मैं अपने पेशेंट्स को नया सेंसोडाइन कंप्लीट प्रोटेक्शन प्लस रेकमेंड करती हूँ। ये सिर्फ सेंसिटिव दांतों की हिफाजत ही नहीं करता, इसमें कई और बेनिफिट्स हैं, जैसे कि व्हाइटनिंग, कैविटी प्रोटेक्शन और सुपीरियर क्लीनिंग एक्शन। तो एक से ज्यादा टूथपेस्ट इस्तेमाल करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है। देयर इज नो कॉम्प्रोमाइज। जब मेरे पेशेंट्स को मिलता है कंप्लीट सोल्यूशन, दे आर हैप्पी, आई एम हैप्पी, इट्स परफेक्ट।
मुस्तकिल दर्द की वजह से आपका पूरा दिन खराब हो सकता है। ऐसे में मैं आपको नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड के इस्तेमाल का मशवरा देता हूँ। इसमें है खास बायलेयर टेक्नोलॉजी, जिसकी एक तय फौरी हल होकर दे जल्द आराम, जबकि दूसरी तय आहिस्ता आहिस्ता घुलकर 8 घंटों तक असर रखे बरकरार, ताकि आप रोजमर्रा के कामों को जारी रख सकें। इसलिए देर पर आराम के लिए नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड पर मेरा भरोसा।
तमाम दवाएं बच्चों की पहुंच से दूर रखें। खुराक लेवल पे दी गई हिदायत के मुताबिक इस्तेमाल करें। तबीयत ज्यादा खराब हो तो डॉक्टर से रुजू करें। हाई ब्लड प्रेशर और अमराज़ जिगर के मरीज डॉक्टर के मशवरे से इस्तेमाल करें।
मुस्तकिल दर्द की वजह से आपका पूरा दिन खराब हो सकता है। ऐसे में मैं आपको नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड के इस्तेमाल का मशवरा देता हूँ। इसमें है खास बाई लेयर टेक्नोलॉजी, जिसकी एक तह फौरी हल होकर दे जल्द आराम, जबकि दूसरी तह आहिस्ता आहिस्ता घुलकर 8 घंटों तक असर रखे बरकरार, ताकि आप रोजमर्रा के कामों को जारी रख सकें। इसलिए देर पर आराम के लिए नई पैनाडोल एक्सटेंड पर मेरा भरोसा।
तमाम दवाएं बच्चों की पहुंच से दूर रखें। खुराक लेवल पे दी गई हिदायत के मुताबिक इस्तेमाल करें। तबीयत ज्यादा खराब हो तो डॉक्टर से रुजू करें। हाई ब्लड प्रेशर और अमराज़ जिगर के मरीज डॉक्टर के मशवरे से इस्तेमाल करें।
Sure, they're a little bit surprised that Max isn't leading the race, but here we go. Lewis has got to choose his moment. It's a long drag down to turn 1, but they don't have DRS.
See the sand, can't you, when you go offline and when the drivers are warming their tyres up there? That could have a bearing and could induce a few lockups too. Into the stadium section we go.
He's gone early, hasn't he? As in he's slowed down early.
Yeah, the safety car, Bert Meylander, is away now. And so we're going to get racing again. Hamilton ahead of Verstappen. Russell ahead of Leclerc. Ferrari have been brought back into this one again. Sergio Perez is the other one on the medium tyres in the top 5. Sainz ahead of Alonso, ahead of Norris, ahead of Ocon and ahead of Stroll. That's the top 10. The only other car, every other car on soft tyres bar Hamilton and Sergio Perez. And away we go then. We're going green and Verstappen has got a decent toe behind Hamilton, and Verstappen is going wheel to wheel down the main straight with Hamilton, and Verstappen is ahead going into turn 1. Lewis Hamilton's been overtaken by Max Verstappen right at the start. George Russell holding off Charles Leclerc in 3rd place. That warm up for Mercedes costing Hamilton at that moment. Then comes Carlos Sainz ahead of Sergio Perez. Behind Perez, Alonso, Norris, Ocon and Stroll. It's Verstappen once again that leads the Dutch Grand Prix.
It was that beautiful toe through turn 14, the banking corner. He was able to drag her behind him. Didn't even need the straight. It was alongside him before they crossed the start and finish line.
You almost thought, should Hamilton just wait a little bit longer and then halfway down the straight then start going so you can't pick up that toe? But that's all to be discussed in the post-race show. Hamilton is already a second behind Max Verstappen.
Oh, he's going to be devastated with that. I'm sure he thought there's a good possibility we could win this race. It could still happen. Everything's to play for still, but look at that toe he got through that corner. And Lewis just opened the gap and he threw down the outside on the main straight.
And what great timing. You're not allowed to overtake until you get to the line. And Verstappen was about, what, half a metre behind Hamilton when they got to the line. About 10 metres down the track, he was half a metre ahead. And that is now the distance that he has pulled out on the soft tyre over Lewis Hamilton. George Russell in third place. Do Mercedes think about trying to find a way to swap Russell and Hamilton around? Because on the medium tyre, Hamilton hasn't got the pace at the moment to keep tracks with Max Verstappen.
They need to let them race now. After the call that they let George go to the soft, they need to just let them race and let Lewis fight for that P2.
Fernando Alonso in seventh place. Lando Norris right behind him. Then comes Esteban Ocon under pressure from Lance Stroll. Behind Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly, then Alex Albon and Mick Schumacher. So we're going to get some DRS trains forming in a moment. And at the moment, we're getting 26 points going Max Verstappen's way in the championship. And another, where's Sergio Perez? Another 18 points. He's going to extend his advantage over his teammate who's currently second in the championship. Let's look at Perez and Sainz a little bit further back and how they got very close and how Sainz going round the outside as ahead of the Red Bull and ahead on the track and in fifth place.
Yeah, it was a nice move, wasn't it? Judged perfectly, just like Max's was. But no, there's been so much action. And Alpine, 7th and 9th. I bet McLaren didn't expect that from those two.
No, they certainly didn't. Trouble for McLaren. Ricciardo still running way down the field in 17th. And Lando Norris kind of fighting a battle, a team battle with just his own arms. Hamilton admitting that what happened was not great for Mercedes. And their strategy and maybe his part in it at the restart as well will all be talked about by the team afterwards, and I'm sure some honest assessments will come from Toto Wolff and the team when we get to talk to them at the end of 72 laps. And what a dramatic Dutch Grand Prix this has been this afternoon. But throughout all the drama, Max Verstappen has found his way back to the front of the field once more. DRS is enabled. Do Mercedes need to use that DRS for George Russell to get past Lewis Hamilton, because he's the car with the pace at the moment that might be able to catch Verstappen? Karoon, down to you at race control.
Not happy, Coffee. Lewis Hamilton is not happy. He's not been on the radio complaining that Mercedes have not helped his cause with more colourful language.
Yes, we saw the asterisks. Hamilton struggling for pace out there, and his teammate 20 metres behind him, and his teammate is not going to be 20 metres behind for long. And oh dear, oh dear, George Russell nearly ran straight into the back of his teammate before he manages to react at the very last moment. That wasn't team orders, that was scrappy and it was defensive, and Lewis Hamilton gave it as best he could. Russell was in grave danger of totally ruining Mercedes' afternoon there, with two cars retiring from the race somehow. He managed to react in time.
You guys, man. I can't tell you.
He feels he's been put in a position, Jenson Button, where he has not been able to fight for the lead of this race.
Not in those words, but I do agree with him. I think they had a great opportunity with both cars in front of Max before the start. He wouldn't have been able to run past Lewis in turn one. He might have got past his George, but not Lewis. God, that was close, wasn't it? You could actually hear George having to back out of the throttle.
What should Mercedes have done?
They should have left them both on the same tyres. I think they should have both stayed on the medium tyre. And I think it would have been, Max still might have won this race, but it would have definitely been more difficult for him to pass both cars.
But if George Russell made the right call to go onto the soft compound tyre, then why should Mercedes hold him back? Hamilton might not even finish on the podium here, because right behind him is Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, and going round the banking of Tarzan corner, pretty much wheel to wheel. Hamilton under huge pressure here, but Russell made the right call to go onto those soft compound tyres. Mercedes were right to let him. Surely they want to win the race, and that's the best way you're going to do it.
I don't think they got a quick enough car to win the race. I think they had to strategize, and they, putting them both on the soft tyres. Lewis would have been second, Lewis would have been second, George would have been third, and they would have possibly finished second and third. But they want to win, and that's why Lewis wanted to stay out on those mediums.
But that's the key, isn't it? That the soft tyre for both would have been the better option for Mercedes.
Yeah, definitely.
When you go different ways, one of them is going to be on the wrong tyre. And this is what we're finding at the moment. Last time Hamilton led a race as long into the race as he was leading here was Abu Dhabi in 2021, and he was not on the faster tyre on that particular evening, and Max Verstappen passed him, and it's happened again here in Zandvoort, but not on the final lap of this race. George Russell's last lap was 0.2 of a second slower than Max Verstappen's. Lewis Hamilton's last lap was 0.9 of a second slower than Charles Leclerc, and Charles Leclerc is now past Lewis Hamilton, and Hamilton, who at one stage looked like he was going to get his first win in 2022 is not even going to get on the podium here at Zandvoort this afternoon.
Oh wow! I mean, if he had stayed third, he would have been disappointed. Now this is going to really hurt. So no, definitely feel for Lewis in that decision, and it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, they're all trying to do the best they can in very difficult, tense situation. But yeah, tough one.
The race has swung back and forth, and in the hands of Max Verstappen, the lead looks safe at the moment. Sergio Perez, meanwhile, his teammate on the medium tyre behind Carlos Sainz, is rather going to hope that Sainz's pace drops off soon and that he can make amends for losing that fifth place. Behind Perez, Alonso still ahead of Norris, still ahead of Ocon, still ahead of Stroll, and that DRS train might just be forming where they all get the benefit of the extra boost down the straight and nobody makes any real impression.
Norris is very close to Fernando Alonso, though. He's only half a second behind, so he might be able to go into turn one if he gets the DRS.
We shall see. We're riding on board at the moment, just a little further ahead with Sergio Perez. There you can see Lando Norris in the background. You can see Sergio Perez with the DRS wide open. Into turn one they go. Perez hasn't got the gap. Norris is going to have to go the long way rounds into turn one and comes out just a few centimetres behind the rear wing and diffuser of the Alpine of Fernando Alonso.
Fernando knows exactly where Lando is, doesn't he? You can see him looking in the mirrors, placing the car where he needs to. This is going to be a fight until the end, these two.
This is the fight. Out in front, it's not really a fight, is it? Verstappen over 3 seconds clear of George Russell. Leclerc runs third with Lewis Hamilton behind him, and Hamilton hoping that Carlos Sainz doesn't reduce that gap much in the next couple of laps, because Sainz could be on for a fourth place finish here the way the pace is currently going. Outside of that, Alonso and Norris, that's the battle. Stroll and Gasly to Alex Albon just dropping off the back of that particular battle with Gasly, and out of the points for Williams running in 12th. We've lost Yuki Tsunoda from this race and Valtteri Bottas to mechanical retirements that have hugely influenced the destiny of this race. And don't forget, Carlos Sainz might still have to explain what happened when the Alfa Romeo